very comfortable and in a place where you can turn your cameras on, I always encourage it. It helps everyone else see you and helps me see you. It makes it a much more lively environment. So please do that if you're comfortable. My name is Amar Kumar. I am the founder and CEO of KaiPod Learning. I recognize some faces here. I've spoken to a few of you before. Thank you so much for this conversation tonight about the KaiPod Catalyst program, where we help educators, parents, community leaders make their dream schools into a reality. This is really a webinar or information session for people who say, I wish I could start a school, or I bet I could run a school better than my principal. So if there's any of those, I see some nods. If any of you feel like that, this might be the right place for you tonight. So today is all about showing you why that dream matters, what's changing in the education sector that makes that dream possible, and how this dream could be closer than you might have thought originally. So that's the goal for tonight. We've got a nice small group tonight compared to some other sessions. So if you have a question, just type it in, come off of mute, do whatever you like. Feel free to ask questions. This is really best when it's engaging. I will have plenty of time at the end for questions as well if you prefer to wait. But if you want to ask something on a particular slide that I'm on, just ask. We're all here together. So I think other people could also benefit from those questions. So we're going to jump in. So I'll start with a quick overview of the Catalyst program. Over the last couple of years, this program, we started this in 2023. It's really become the first choice for education entrepreneurs. We're now the largest microschool startup accelerator program in the country. We're in more than 25 states. We're in 3 countries. And we do know and believe that we have the best program of any of them that we've seen out there. We have the best support as well as the most in-depth partnership with the founders. And we're really excited to launch a brand new cohort this November. Our program is very selective. We accept fewer than 10% of the founders who apply into the program because we really want to make sure that the people who are in the program have the right motivations, the right vision, the right skill sets, and that their community can actually sort of sustain a microschool. And so often in the conversations, we're talking about what your community is like, why you think a microschool will be successful, because we don't want to lead you on into doing something that won't sustain. So we're really there to help you figure out before you ever sign anything, before you even start anything, if we feel based on our experience that this could be right. So less than 10%. Second, we've supported more than 100 founders who've gone through this. And by supporting so many founders, we see lots of things that happen. We can see the questions that come up, the challenges that come up. And every time we serve more founders, we get better and better. So we've just built this incredible body of expertise to support founders like you. And the third is just the proof point of all of this. Our success rate is 6 times the national average. So nationally, only about 10% of people who want to start a school end up doing so. Let that sink in. 90% of the people who try to do this alone end up failing. And this is data from the National Microschooling Center. Whereas in the Catalyst program, our stats are about 60%. So again, it's not for everyone. It's not easy. It's still a journey. 60% work and do it in the first year. The other 40% might need longer, but we have a very, very high success rate compared to the national average because of the supports we're trying to build. So that's just a quick overview of the program. Now let me talk about some of the things that are happening in the program. And the best way to do it is by talking about some of these wonderful founders. So I really want to highlight some of these amazing founders that are in our program. There's just 3 of them here that I'm going to sort of draw a little profile on. The first is Eliza Hernandez in Arizona. She was a teacher for more than a decade, high school English teacher, and she experienced how deep the struggles were for traditional education for some students. And she wanted to find alternative methods to teach at. She didn't find them. And so she built Noma Learning. And Noma Learning started this fall in August, and she's already full. She got 14 kids. According to her, she's making more money now than she was as a school teacher. So that's in 3 months. So she's been working with us this year to launch her school in Arizona. Tom, who also happens to be in Arizona, he runs a faith-based microschool for boys in Scottsdale. He was a substitute teacher. He taught in a school district, but he grew up in an all-boys Catholic school. And he sort of wanted to bring that level of real support and sort of care for each child, but he couldn't do that in a public school setting. So he decided to build it. And so he built a microschool inspired by his own experience, and he launched this year, and he's successful. And he gets to take kids on field trips and really do service in the community the way he feels like middle school boys need to be doing. So he built what he couldn't see. And then finally, Christina, who was a homeschool parent in Atlanta, Georgia, in suburbs of Georgia, Atlanta. She had built a co-op, she'd built learning pods, she'd done all this herself, but she wanted to build something a little more structured for the kids in her community. And so this year she launched the Academy of Creatives in Columbus, Georgia. And she's been incredibly successful. She was actually on our information session 2 weeks ago. And she talked about her experience and how sort of emotional it's made her. We've got this incredibly diverse group all over the country in our cohort, but they're all creative, they're all passionate, they're all hardworking, and none of them take no for an answer. That's what really brings them all together. So that's what we're looking for in the educators of tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit about the school movement itself, and then I'll talk about the Catalyst program, and I'll leave plenty of time for Q&A. So just a little context that you're all probably aware of. How many of you have kids on this call? Raise your hands or type it in. Your own kids, yes? I see a couple. And then how many of you are teachers? Yeah, okay. So at least from folks I can see, yes to kids and yes to teachers, at least one of the two probably. You will recognize the poor child on the left side of the slide, and certainly the dynamic that parents face. More parents really got a peek into the child's education, what they were learning, how they were learning, whether they were learning. And most parents say they didn't love what they saw. Most parents say, I wish there was something different. Not that public school teachers are doing a bad job, not the system, like it's just not right for my kid. And that was a prevailing sentiment in America. And so more than 40% of families says, I wish I had more choice. I wish I could do something different for my child, but there is no option available in my community. And on the right side of the slide, you see the craziest evidence of that. That there's been a more than 51% rise in homeschoolers in America. Homeschooling is really difficult. Has anyone homeschooled here? Oh, okay. You see a couple of hands. Okay, yeah. Homeschooling is really difficult, and it's not right for everyone, but it is right for a lot of families. But the kind of rise that we're seeing happen is really indicative of the fact that not enough options exist, and parents are willing to go to any length to serve their child well. They're willing to go to any length to say, I need something different for my child. And so this is, for me, sort of the canary in the coal mine, that parents want more options. They need more options. And when they don't find them, they create them, like Christina did. And like I think a lot of you are going to be doing. So this is really a watershed moment in education where kids are not being served the way parents want them to be. Parents are looking for alternatives. And those of you who are educators, you're probably looking for a career change as well. And a lot of the educators are saying, if I can't make change in the system, I'm going to leave the system and build. I'm going to be the change I wish to be. And that's what gets my heart rate going. Those are the people that I want to work with. So that's what the Catalyst movement is really all about. And we obviously believe deeply in microschools, which are flexible environments that educators can build. So these are a new phrase, but not a new concept, right? Microschools in some form have been around for hundreds of years, right? If you think about the one-room schoolhouse from back when, that was a microschool. If you think about a co-op or a learning pod, that was a microschool. The way we sort of think about them is these are small, flexible learning environments, roughly 10 to 15 students per educator. They can be mixed age. All these students are in a physical space that come together to learn. And importantly, that learning is personalized. It's really intentionally personalized. Because you don't have to teach 25 kids for 6 periods, you don't have to create one lesson plan for 150 kids. If you have 10 students, you can decide to do something different for these groups of students. And so that personalization could be driven by technology. It could be driven by you as a teacher or something else. But whoever's driving the learning, it's meant to target the child. And it starts with the child's needs, not a lesson plan or a pacing guide or a standardized test at the end of the year. And these microschools can afford to be more innovative. They can afford to incorporate project-based learning or Montessori or other things that make the learning enriching for kids. And these micro schools are based in the community, and we love to say they're created by educators in the community, from the community, for the community, because really they know best what those kids need. They know best what that community needs. So this is what we're starting to say is families who come to us and say, I want this in my community. Can you open a KaiPod? Can you open a new microschool? And I say, I want to find teachers. So whenever a parent says, can you open a KaiPod in San Marcos, Texas? I say, find a teacher. Find a teacher who you love in this community. Have him or her open microschool. We'll support them. We'll get them going. We want them from the community to be the catalyst for microschooling in your community. So this is why we love this space. Just a quick few more words on this. Microschools break the mold for kids, for families, for educators. The kids angle is pretty obvious, right? You can really personalize learning for kids, not creating instruction for 30 students at a time, but really for 5 to 10. Microschools can be very positive for kids. The social dynamics are just wonderful when you have mixed age groups where all the students are together, they're building the culture together, and the friendships that form are just unbelievably deep. Kids don't see it as a school, a different place to go to. They sort of see it as an extension of their community. And that's really what you want learning to feel like. For families, microschools are much more flexible and much more close to their homes, and they really feel connected to a community of a microschool. I think today in America, everyone is craving this opportunity, this deep sense of community. It's often what I think draws homeschoolers together is because they feel connected to another community, and microschools can often replicate that wonderful feeling. And then for educators, microschools are career autonomy. So you get to build the thing you've been passionate about. You get to advance in your career, become an owner of a microschool. You get to build deep relationships with a small number of kids and their families. You get to know them. You get to go to their birthday parties. You get to take them on the field trips that you want. All of those things are just the positives, the wonderful positives of being a microschool operator. And then we'll talk about this if you like, but you can earn what you deserve. Microschool operators with 10 to 15 kids can often earn much more than they were earning in a traditional classroom. That's not why most educators do this, but it is a nice benefit, is that you can earn what you deserve, you get the autonomy, and you just get this wonderful connection with kids and families. So that's the overall why microschooling, why we love them so much. And it takes a lot to build a great microschool, right? Don't let me sort of paint just a rosy picture. It is really hard to launch a really great microschool. The obvious things, right? You need a school vision. What is it going to be about? Why does your school do something different than everything else that exists in this world? The second, the student experience. What makes the school magical, where kids want to come back day after day? What curriculum are you going to use? Believe it or not, you can pick your own curriculum. You can create your own curriculum if you really want it. That kind of freedom is exciting, but probably also anxiety inducing for some people because there are quite literally hundreds of options. But that's another thing that you get to pick. Compliance, right? What does my state regulation say about this microschool? What does my city, my county, what does the federal government say? There's different layers of regulation that you need to be aware of to be compliant as a school option. There's a financial model, right? You not only are you starting a school, you're starting a business. And so businesses have incomes and expenses, and you got to balance those. And so you need to be aware of your financial model. The location is a big question. Where is the school going to be? In a church, in a home, in a retail location, in a school bus. We have a couple of schools in our network that are quite literally on school buses. They've converted the bus into a micro school. They do classes in the morning at a parked place, and then in the afternoon, they all kind of buckle in and they go to a field trip, or they do an enrichment in the community. So the world's your oyster in terms of location. Marketing, which can be a source of stress for a lot of people, but telling your community about your school is another big thing to have your school be successful, and then operations. So this is just, we call it kind of our 8 building blocks or our 8 modules. This is not rocket science here. I bet everyone kind of figured out this is what you need. I think the hard part is how do they all come together? How do you ensure that all of these pieces are in place for your school? Thankfully, they don't all have to be perfect right away, but you do need to sort of work towards them so that your school becomes sustainable. And that's where our program comes in. You're all here to learn a little bit more about this. So let me tell you about the KaiPod Catalyst and how it helps you sort of solve this puzzle, how it helps you launch your school, whatever you have in your head, how does it come into reality? So this is a little bit of a wordy slide, but I want to go through it together. So we sort of talk about it as a recipe. On the left, you've got your ingredients. So you're going to need to have a vision for what you want to build. You're going to need to have some passion on this thing, right? Like you really want to do this. This isn't just something you thought of because you got an email. It's something you've kind of been thinking about in the back of your mind for some time. That passion is going to be critical. Your hard work and dedication, right? You're going to go out in the community and tell families and look for real estate and pick a curriculum and build a financial model. You're going to get uncomfortable. You're going to do things that you haven't done before. You're going to fail at some of those things. And so you need to be dedicated to this and put in the hard work to bring that school to life. If you can do those things, we provide some of the other stuff. So we have a lot of expertise in how to start a school. We've started 70 plus schools. We have a lot of tools and templates that you don't have to build yourself. We provide one-on-one coaching. I myself do a ton of one-on-one coaching for founders, and my whole network, my head of marketing, my head of operations, head of academics, head of finance, we all do one-on-one coaching with our founders. So you can learn from what we have learned. We have a founder community that is just unbelievable. These 100+ people who are working to start a school, some of them are a few steps ahead of you. Some of them are just getting started, and we're all together supporting each other. And that's a really powerful piece of this puzzle. And then, of course, we have a lot of connections to resources, grants, funders, et cetera. So those are kind of the ingredients. Now, how all this comes together. So you start with refining your vision, right? So you probably have some sense in your head of what you want your school to look like. And we help you put that on paper and kind of articulate if this is truly something your community will value. Sometimes what's in your head isn't something that the community wants. And we've seen some examples of that, and we help you shape it. So sometimes it has to do with what age you want to target, what type of learning model you want to do. So we help you sort of refine that vision based on what we've seen and some research in your community. We have an online course that lets you go through those 8 big building blocks. So you get to do that in your own pace because there's a lot of things to learn in terms of what to do, right? Those 8 blocks have probably a few hundred steps, right? Things that you've got like for curriculum, there's like a lot of steps on how to get to your curriculum. Financial model, there's a lot of steps. So we've made a self-paced course that you can work through in the evenings, on the weekends, whatever schedule works for you to take those steps. So you're kind of building that school at your pace over the next several months. And then you have access to our entire library of tools and templates, like I said. So we built a bunch of schools ourselves. We've launched 70+ schools with founders, enrollment handbooks, lease agreements, space use agreements, enrollment forms, permission slips. Everything you're going to need is in this library. And so you essentially get access to that as part of Catalyst because I really don't want you to build it yourself. Again, right? I don't want everyone to go build a brand new enrollment handbook. That's just a total waste of your time. And then I don't want you to have an attorney have to review that whole thing. That's a total waste of your money, right? There's a lot of things that every single founder has to do independently that is just a waste of time and money, which is, I think, why 90% of people don't end up launching because they have to repeat all of that work. And so in our network, you just get access to the stuff that we've already built, we've already vetted, we've already gotten reviewed. And so you have access to it, you just customize it for yourself. One-on-one coaching. So this is a huge part of the program. Every one of you is a little different, right? Just look at the states that you're all from. Each of you has different regulations. Each of you has different financials that your community can afford. Some of you are in states that have education savings accounts. Some of you are not. There's so many different intricacies of how your school will come to life, and it'll be different from the neighbor in your class. And so we provide a lot of one-on-one coaching and group sessions to help you work through those challenges that are unique to your needs. And then I talked about our national founder community and other connections. So we have our own small startup grant for qualified founders. We obviously are very well connected to the VELA, the YAS, and all those. So when you're ready to apply for grant funding or loans, we can help you get connected to those people. So there's a lot here, but essentially I want you to sort of feel that this is a group that's there to support you. You provide the vision, the passion, the hard work, the dedication that I'm not going to give up, and then we'll support you with everything else. And First obvious question that comes up is how much does this cost? Like, how does it work? So that's obviously the next slide I share because I really want you to understand how this works and how it's different from other programs. So the first thing I want to reinforce is this school is yours. This is not a franchise. This is not some sort of pyramid scheme. This is your school. I'm helping you start your own school that is 100% owned and operated by you. You have total freedom in what you want to build. You have total autonomy in how to bring this to life. If your school goes from 10 kids to 20 kids to 100 kids, all that upside is yours. It's your school. It's really important to enforce because there are other programs where you basically work for another company and you're launching schools for them. And that's fine as a model. We believe that we want to empower you to be the entrepreneur. We want you to be the owner so that you see the upside and the potential. And I think that aligns incentives a lot better. But we don't walk away. So we're not here to just say, good luck, you've started. We're actually with you every step of the way. So I talked in that last slide with the recipes and the ingredients of all the stuff we help you with to get started. But after you get started, we're still there with you because we really want to make sure that these micro schools don't just start and fail. Believe it or not, there's a pretty high failure rate after launch. A lot of it has to do with growth. So if your enrollment target is I need 12 kids to break even and you only get to 8, you're not going to make it past the first year. So it's a really important thing to get right. So we support you with ongoing marketing. We run Facebook ads for our partners. We run Google ads. We do local PR and national PR. We pitch our partners to local newspapers. We have a KaiPod marketplace where more than 100,000 parents go searching for microschools. This year, that number should be 300,000. We're growing that. So essentially, once you're in our network, you're on our marketplace page, parent puts in their zip code, they get sent to your school. So we really want to help you grow your school. We're providing lots of compliance support because these regulations continue to change. You're going to need some software to manage your school. So you get free access to Newton, which is a software we built for our own network. We're opening it for you. You get professional development, curriculum discounts, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of stuff that we're still with you for 3 years. And for those 3 years, we bill a per student fee. So we're very transparent about this fee. The fee comes to about 10%. So if you decide to charge, let's say $800 a month for your micro school, we ask for $80 of that. And that's it. There's no other fees. There's no other upfront costs. There's no after costs. It's essentially 10% of whatever you're charging. And when we help you build your financial model, we build a fee into it so you can know exactly where your revenues are going to be, where your expenses are going to be, and how you're going to make ends meet, and how you're going to create more upside financially for yourself. So that's how the model works. So as a recap, once you're in the program, we're your partners. We're committed to you. We help you get started, and we help you run that school for at least 3 years, and we charge that 10% fee. For those of you who decide not to launch a school. So you may go through the program and you're like, I thought about it, it's not right for me. We're super bummed when that happens, but that's fine. We don't bill you anything. There's no fee, there's no penalty. We don't want you to go into the program thinking that that's what you're going to do, right? We really want people who are super committed that this is their path. And so part of the interview process is really assessing, do you really want to do this? Do you know how hard it's going to be? And if you believe it and you get us excited about your vision, then we're your partners for 3 years. So we're committed to you. And then after 3 years, of course, you have the option to stay in the network, and we give lots of wonderful support forever. Okay. Last couple of slides. So these are our wonderful people who've launched schools with us, just a few of them. We've served more than 100 founders, like I said, to this day. We've just built these amazing relationships with so many of them. If you know some from our network, please ask them. Ask them directly. Ask any of them. We're just so wonderfully proud of these founders, and we know that they're really excited about the support they got from KaiPod. And so their testimonial will carry more weight than anything I could say tonight. And so please go on a Facebook group, go ask anyone about the KaiPod Catalyst program. And I think you'll see that generally the feedback is incredibly positive. People say we give 100% commitment, which is too low. I think we have 200% commitment to our founders because we really want them to be unbelievably successful. Lifesaver is what Alexandra calls us. And then Jim and Isis at the bottom, I just love that after the program, they started to see themselves differently. A lot of times founders come to this program and they have this chip on their shoulder. They sort of say, I'm just a teacher that was doing this just a teacher. I didn't know that I could do things differently. I didn't know I could make change happen. And after this program, they've launched a site, they've built a school, they've recruited families, they've collected enrollment deposits, they've become a business owner. And just that mental shift is wild. And so I love seeing that mental shift happen in the minds of educators and the hearts of educators. Jim, I remember he told me, he was one of our first cohort founders. He said, my son sees me differently now than he did before. My son has a different level of respect for me now because he's seen what I'm building. And that's really powerful. I just love that sentiment that educators are capable of so much. And entrepreneurship has affected so much of this economy except education. And I think this is where teachers are going to be the builders of the future, and teachers are going to build the new education system that our communities need. So I'll pause. I'm going to give you a lot of time for questions. The couple of quick things I want to say, we have this new cohort that's going to start in early November, and we are actively looking for applications now. So we have, 13 days left in this application window. We will not extend it again. October 20th is the absolute deadline for this cohort. So if you're thinking about this, you sort of are like, yes, I want to launch a school this year. I'm going to do it. October 20th is the date. I will also tell you, do not wait until October 19th or 20th. Do it sooner. You've got a weekend coming up, get it done, because we review applications on a rolling basis. And while we don't have a final size for the cohort, we do sort of fill in slots. And so if you're thinking about this, apply sooner. The sooner, the better. Obviously, pay attention to the application, make it quality, don't rush it, but please don't wait until the end. It's October 20th. The application is on our website. You can also go to this URL. I will also put a link to it in the email that I send as a follow-up tonight. And then if you have any questions, just email us. Obviously ask tonight, but if anything comes up after tonight, just email us, catalyst@KaiPod Learning. We monitor that inbox, we get back to you within a day. Okay, I'm done talking. Now I'm here to get any reactions, feedback, or questions from the folks here tonight. Okay, Austin, I applied in August. What did you apply for? For the Catalyst program or something else? Okay, Austin, I don't know if you can hear me. If you applied for the Catalyst program this August, then you're already in our funnel that we're reviewing, so you don't need to apply again. But if you applied for maybe a job with KaiPod, then you're not in the Catalyst funnel. So I'm not sure. Oh yeah, you did apply for the Catalyst. Okay, so you're then already being reviewed. Kendra, you made it through the interview process and reviewing the contract. Congratulations, that's fantastic. Schools in the program, what do they gross annually? This is a wildly different question for so many people. The average across the network is their tuition is around $8,000 a year for a full-time student. Now that's an average, it's sort of the mean, but there's a lot of distribution around it. So some schools that go as little as $3,000 or $4,000 a year if they're in lower income communities. And there are other schools, we have one that's at $38,500 a year. Obviously a very high income community. It's more like a private school. So there's a huge variation there. The average is 8,000 a year, and then multiply that by how many kids. So we recommend for neurotypical high schoolers, 15 to 20. For neurodivergent elementary schoolers, 3 to 4, right? So the ratios of kids you have per educator will really depend. But since you asked the question, I'll mention it. $8,000 a kid, an average of 10 to 12 kids. So it's about $96,000 to $100,000 of revenues for a first year founder. All depends on enrollment. But that's the revenues. And then you obviously pay yourself out of that. You can pay for space and stuff like that. What software is available for managing school? So we have the software called Newton, which allows you to manage the basics of your microschool, enrolling families, sending bills, processing payments. There's a student information system. There's attendance tracking, messaging parents, photo sharing. There's a simple task manager. It will not yet replace Canvas. So Canvas is a system that integrates with other tools. It's sort of like a learning management system slash sort of easy link launcher. So no, it cannot replace Canvas. You'll probably, if you're going to use your own learning management system, you probably will still need that. But I think what you'll see as part of the Catalyst program is a lot of traditional schools use Canvas because they have one curriculum for everyone, and it's just sort of a traditional approach. Whereas in microschools, you just get so much more flexibility. So I think out of our entire network, maybe 3 or 4 schools need and use Canvas. The rest don't. Once the microschool takes off and is considered successful, have any of them offered scholarships to low socioeconomic students? Yes, absolutely. In fact, a lot of microschools, and we encourage them to build in a small budget for scholarships right from the get-go. Obviously, the size of that budget will depend on a lot of factors, but we usually say, plan to offer 5 to 10% of your revenue as scholarships. And then as you get more and more successful, you can obviously grow that. But we always want each micro school to approach their community with, if you can't afford it, we'll do our best to make it work. And so that becomes a very positive way to enter a community. And like I said, that percentage starts low, but then it goes up. Do founders receive support in understanding local, state, and county laws? Yes, this is a huge part of the program. I have become a weird savant on state regulations. And then Annie, my colleague, who's our COO, she is a savant on local. She doesn't know them all, but she looks them up, local regulations. So when it comes to zoning, special use permits, state, you want someone who's done this to help you with this. And I can tell you it's not always easy, and it doesn't always work the way you want. There's one of our founders, she was just in this publication. She did all the right things. She checked the zoning. We supported her. She got permission from the county. She signed her lease, and then someone in the county just changed their mind. They got a new person. He changed his mind. And then now there's this whole legal battle. So it's really hard, even when you do it all right. Now, that's a rare case. 99.9% of the time, if you do it right, you're going to get support. The regulators at these local levels are not there to stop you. That's one of the things we teach is like, they're not bad guys. They're just trying to do the right thing for the community. But sometimes they themselves don't know how to apply the law. So you need someone who does know. And we have a network of attorneys, some who do pro bono work and some who do paid work, who can help you if it starts to get a little bit of a sticky situation. Is there a charge for Newton, or is this part of the 10% fee to KaiPod? There is no extra charge for Newton. It is all included as part of your 10% fee. And one of the things we commit to everyone is you're always on the latest version of Newton. So obviously, as I mentioned, we build Newton for our own schools that we run. And so every time there's a new release that goes to our schools, all of our partners access it as well, because we always want you to sort of be at the forefront. And I really do believe that Newton will be the app that every micro school uses, because it is being designed specifically for the needs of microschools, right? Versus a lot of the others are designed for public schools or designed for large private schools. And so when you try to implement them at your school, it's a massive pain, or it's incredibly expensive. Whereas we know what microschools need, so we're designing it just for this segment. What else do they use instead of Canvas? Okay, Marty, so back to your Canvas question. So it really has to do with the curriculum they're using and their approach to teaching and learning. So for example, if you're using something like Lexia for supporting students with reading, you don't need Canvas for that. Lexia has its own sort of student information system and learning management support. So for example, I'm just thinking of one founder I was talking to yesterday. She's got Lexia, Zern, and quantum science. So she uses those 3. And so all of her students are using some version of those. And then she has others who are homeschoolers. So the parents have actually chosen their own curriculum. And so she becomes more like a learning guide or a learning coach for those kids. So something like Canvas would never work for that model, right? So because in microschooling, there's so much more flexibility, and we strongly encourage you to actually listen to what the families are asking for and then build your curriculum strategy based on that. I think you'll see that your mind gets opened up to so much more flexibility and just doing things differently than you've done before. But like I said, there are some that want everyone's on the same curriculum and we use Canvas to manage it. That happens too. Totally fine. It's your school, your vision. I'd like to open an early learning schools. Yes. Are any of your schools infants or pre-K? Yes, we have 5 that are serving 2 to 5-year-olds. So 5 schools, including one that just launched today in Pennsylvania. Joanna just launched her preschool this morning. She has a 3-year-old and a newborn, so she's creating a preschool for her kids and others. So yes, we do have schools in our network. The only thing we ask is you see this as a school, not a daycare. Obviously, they're very similar for 2-year-olds. Daycare and school are very similar, but we want there to feel some sort of an educational component. Right, kids are learning, practicing, not curriculum in the traditional sense, but there is a educational component to it. If that's your vision as well, we would love to support you in that. Is there a common experience or type of school founded by KaiPod Catalyst partners? No. Are we model agnostic? Yes. Or do you look for certain aspects during the selection process? So the thing that draws them all together is a commitment to personalized learning. Like really every child has a unique learning need and unique learning goals. So how do I support that? The second thing is a commitment to staying small. So you don't want 30 kids all learning the same thing, right? Doesn't mean your school will forever be small. It just means every unit of class is small. So you could do 10 students to one teacher, and when you're ready to expand, you hire 3 more teachers, and now you got 40 kids. That's great. Everyone wins when you do that. More choices in your community, you get more upside. We also benefit. That's great. But we don't want you to open a school for 30 kids all at once, right? That doesn't feel aligned to the principles of microschooling. We're never going to stop you if that's what you want to do. That's your goal. But we really want you to sort of feel that commitment to personalization, small sizes, and this parent voice. Like parents are sort of active creators, participators, supporters of your school, which I think most educators love that idea. So that's the only thing that really draws everyone together. But like I said, we've got schools that support very, very, very young learners all the way to high schoolers. We've got schools that are project-based, Montessori, traditional college prep. We've got schools that meet outdoors, schools that meet indoors, schools that meet in buses. We've got schools that are for gifted student athletes, for neurodivergent students, for students who have high autism, special needs, everything in between. So we've got this incredible, diverse network of founders who are building just incredibly diverse schools for their community. And that's what my vision is. So that's that. If you're interested in that, you don't want to fit in anyone else's box, this is a program for you. Are there any international partnerships? Yes, we have 2. So we've got one in Canada, one in Jamaica. We're very selective about international partnerships because one, I can't confidently tell you that I know the regulation. So if you're okay with that and you say you can figure that out, or with my support you can figure it out, then we're more excited. And then the second thing that I'm never really sure about is what is the interest in alternative learning in that country? So if you do apply from abroad, we read all the applications. I read a lot of the international ones myself because I know a little bit about international education. And so if we choose to interview you, a bunch of the questions are going to be around why do you think families in Mexico, families in Brazil, families in Germany are going to want this? What gives you evidence that this microschool can be sustained? And if you can persuade me that this microschool is going to be around and the community needs it, then I'm really excited to help you. Accreditations, great question. Accreditations for microschools or private school designations. So microschools have lots of paths, including being a private school. Yes, depending on your state, that's the easier path. In some states, that's a harder path, but we'll coach you through that. So if you choose to be a private school, obviously you can also get accredited. There are multiple pathways for accreditation, including 2 that we are pursuing. So the idea is we as KaiPod get accredited. That process has already started. Once we're accredited, we can bless you with our accreditation. So essentially, you would automatically get accredited if you go through the Catalyst program. We expect that to be ready by fall of 2025, so in about 10 months. Not everyone wants accreditation, but we know a lot of people do. So if you do want it, that's a big advantage. What is the most difficult part of the process? Difficult is a complex word. Everything is difficult for different people. From what I have seen across the board, The most difficult is finding families, not because they don't exist, because teachers have a hard time getting out there. They have a hard time sort of quote selling. So a lot of what we do is change your mindset. It's not selling, you're educating your community. You're sort of telling people what exists. The hard thing is just like changing your mindset that I don't just show up on September 3rd and kids are in my class. I actually have to go find the kids. So that's really tough. But if you don't think that'll be tough for you, that's great. Second is location, which Sarah, you mentioned. Depending on the community, you may not have a really suitable location right away. So you may need to be flexible, try something different for the first year while you get enough capital or you can build something. And the third is regulation, understanding and really being compliant with regulation. I would say in 70% of the country, it's actually pretty easy, right? Like regulation. But in 30% of the country, the local laws and state laws and how they intersect can make it tricky. Those are the three things that trip people up the most. But if you feel confident that you can talk to a family and sort of your passion will come out and that family will say, wow, I want my child in this lady or this man's school. If you can feel confident that you're going to do the hard work to find a location and work with us on regulation, you're not going to have a hard time. No, it's support of finding funding and finding suitable look at. Yes, Catalyst. Rachel, to your question of if the struggles are funding and location, would Catalyst be the best place to start? I obviously am biased. I do think so. To be clear, in Catalyst, it doesn't mean all of a sudden like you get a check for $20,000. Like it's not, it's not that, but we'll help you build a model that is going to help you be sustainable. For any of you who are thinking today, I'm just going to get a bunch of grants. I would encourage you to change that mindset today. The grant funding in this space is still there, but it's starting to constrict. It is starting to look different and it's starting to prioritize people later in the funnel versus new founders. It's going to make it harder to launch, which is just the reality of it. So really what you want is to build a school model that sustains itself on its own revenues. I have probably said that statement 500 times because so many times people say, I'm just going to write a bunch of grants. I'm really good at grant writing, or I'm going to raise a bunch of local donations. And I'm here to tell you that is a tempting place to start. You might be able to raise a few $1,000s out, but it is not a sustainable strategy. So what you want is someone to help you build a sustainable financial model and financial strategy that allows you to run the school forever, not just until the grant money runs out. Would a microschool serving students in the juvenile justice system be a fit for KaiPod? Yes. If you are sort of aligned with this concept of personalization and small sizes, yes, it would fit. I was talking to a founder in Georgia who was supporting kids in that system. I think there were some local regulations that unfortunately he got stuck against, but I would love to work with you if that's your vision. I think microschools can be incredibly powerful for kids who have some of these constraints being put on them. Doesn't mean they can't learn. And Tom, who was the founder I showed you earlier, he's actually doing outreach to homes, boys' homes, and I forgot what it's called, but after the juvenile justice system, the sort of that system that you're in, he's doing outreach to them to say, can I support these kids in a different way? And so this is a great place to be if this is what you want to do. Have we ever had a founder or anyone from KaiPod who's done any type of research in a microschool to determine the success, better their program? What does that mean? Are you talking about academic metrics, Melissa?
Yeah, basically I'm talking about like action research or doing focus groups, things like that.
Yes, absolutely. So we encourage all of our founders to actually set your intended outcomes and measure them. And that includes academics. So for example, MAP is an assessment that you can do pre and post. So we recommend things like MAP. We do customer experience surveys, so parents and students, as well as sort of just retention data. So we help you track all of that and we help you compare it to the other micro schools in your area, other micro schools nationally, as well as the KaiPod network. So that way you can see how you're doing relative to others and whether you want to excel in certain things or not. The other one I forgot to mention is called the LEAPS survey, which is around student agency. how confident do students feel in making their own decisions? Probably better for middle schoolers or late elementary and above. But this is questions like, do I feel like I have control over my learning? Do I feel like I love my learning? Do I feel seen and sort of heard at my school? So there's this battery of questions that are part of the survey. So you get access to that as part of the KaiPod network, and then you get to compare yourself, not just to microschools, but actually all schools nationally. Because LEAPS is an organization that does this for public schools and private schools. And so as part of Catalyst, you actually get free access to that through our networks. So there's lots of that. We also have 3 academic institutions that are doing research with our network. It's still early to say what that looks like, but essentially they want to do observations and data measurement to sort of tell the story of microschooling generally. Sounds like that might be something you want to be a part of, and we'd do a call for who wants to be a part of that as an optional thing. Yeah, microschooling is just so exciting right now in academia, in education circles, that there's a lot of attention on this space. If you're already the owner of a school, is that a disqualification? Not at all. I would say 2 things. If you're already the owner of a school, it's running, well enough, and you have a couple of strategic challenges, you probably don't want to apply to Catalyst. It's probably not going to be the right fit for you. There's a separate thing that we have called the partner network we can help you with. So if that sounds like you, where you've already got a school, you just want to fix a couple things, you need some help with growth, email us at Catalyst@KaiPod, and we'll get you connected to the right person. But if you're the owner of a school, you're like, this is not working. I need to do something different. I need to start again. Or I want to replicate it to multiple sites. Then the Catalyst program is right for you. In fact, about 15% of our founders join the program already running something. They've already got a microschool. But something's not singing, something's not working. They're worried they're going to run out of money or not get enough kids or run afoul of local regulation. And so they join the program as like a full support system to get their school on solid footing. So if that sounds like you, please do apply. All right, Kendra, for self-operators, what do you suggest as a solution for emergency absences? So you're thinking like substitute teachers, yes. Thinking ahead, this is very important. If you're a solo micro school operator and you get sick, those parents are counting on you. So we have access to 3 different sub networks that we would introduce you to. You would get the preferred pricing that we get. Essentially, they would be able to send a sub on demand. These are pre-vetted substitutes. Unfortunately, they're not in every state. So it depends on the state. But yes, you do have access to that through us. We also have a whole substitute finding process. So if you are in a state where these companies, one's called Scoot, another one's called Swing. If you're in a state that these don't exist, then we help you sort of create your own roster of substitutes and how to vet them before you actually need them. So this is a very important part of our operations module. Can we provide services in person and online? Yes, you can. It's okay. It's your school. You do what you want. So we do have a lot of founders who do both because online tutoring and online supports can be a great way to supplement your school's income in the short term. So if that's what you want to do, this is a great idea. And then a smiley face. Great. Another smiley face. Awesome. Other questions? Who has already applied? I know one person had. No, okay. Others haven't yet applied. Who is thinking of applying? Every hand better go up. Come on. Yeah, that's right. Come on, Natasha. Yes, that's right. So I really encourage you to do it because 1, there's never going to be a good time. There's always a reason not to do something. This is just like my final few things. I felt this way about buying a house. I felt this way about having a kid. I felt this way about having a second kid. There's never a good time. But if you have a dream to do something for your community in a different way, if this is something that you really wish someone created, this is a good way to do it. Start the program, start the application. And the application just means you're expressing interest in it. You're not committing to anything, but I want you to take it seriously, right? I don't want you to just apply for the sake of it. I want you to use the application as a way to form your vision, as a way to do the research and to really understand what you are passionate about. And if at the end of the application, before you're about to hit submit, you say, oh my God, I really want this. Like, I really want to be in this. I really am excited about what this could become. That's your signal that you should do this. But if you can't even get through the application, you're like, ah, I don't want to do this, then that's your signal. Maybe it's not the right time. And you just stay in the, just read the emails every now and then, like don't apply yet. There'll be more cohorts in the future. So this is not a high pressure situation. This is if you're really excited about this for fall of 2025, right? Everyone who joins now is going to be working towards August 2025. If that's what you want to do, and you want this to be your last year in a miserable teaching environment or something that you're not in love with, then apply now. All right, I got a couple more quick questions. Lots of people who started. Wonderful. I am ready. Okay, Alicia asks, big question. How is this different from an Acton model? Awesome question. And yes, Alicia, this is okay to ask. It's a great question. So Acton Academy, if you've heard of it, they probably are the largest or the second largest network. So they are a model where 40 to 50 students come together in 3 to 4 groups, and they really believe in experiential learning and project-based learning. So they have quests where a student can sort of do a quest, and through doing the quest, they learn core principles in science and math. Here's how we are different than Acton. So Acton essentially is saying, here's our approach. Here's our brand name. Go build it. And Actons usually have an upfront fee and a percentage fee. What we say is, I have my own vision, my own brand, but I want you to be front and center. I want your vision to be front and center. I want your approach to sync. And so if you say, I don't want that approach, I want to build my own approach, then KaiPod is probably the better program. Actually, I know KaiPod is a better program. Because in Acton, you kind of got to do the things their way. They sort of have a cultural belief system. In fact, someone told me, I don't know if this is true, you actually have to read the book and answer questions about Acton in order to even be in the process. So that's a little bit different. That's sort of like, are you a believer in the Acton model? And if you are, you actually should do that. Don't do KaiPod. Because if that's the model you love and you really want to build that specific model, then Acton has probably what you need. But my belief in the space is educators have their own vision and they don't want to take someone else's. They don't want someone else telling them what their vision should be. So this is why I built Catalyst. And then someone asked privately, are single-sex schools permitted? Yes, we have 2 all-boys schools in our network. We have 1 all-girls school that's going to form this fall. So yeah, totally. If that's your vision, we encourage that because there are a lot of advantages to single-sex schools. What are some reasons you will say no to someone applying? Great question, Bonnie. I'm very transparent about this, so I will tell you. If I feel like in the application or the interview, you're not really passionate about this, that you might be seeing this as a job, not a really hard dream that you really need to do because like it's gonna light a fire inside you. If I see that the fire isn't there, we would say no. Because this is just too hard for someone who just wants a job. It's just too hard. The second reason, and so you need people who say, I'm gonna break down every door. Anyone who gets in my way, watch out. We want those people. The second reason we may say no is if we believe your school is not really going to be different than other schools that exist. Now, thankfully, that's pretty rare that we have to say no for that reason because everyone we meet has a passion for doing things differently. But if you're just building a private school for 30 kids in a classroom and you want to charge $20,000 for that, like it doesn't get me very excited to call you a micro school. So we may not be able to support you in that. There's other programs for that. And then the third reason is if I believe your community can't support it. And this is the one that always breaks my heart. Is that the entrepreneur is super passionate. They've got an awesome idea. And they tell me, hey, Amar, I want to build a school for kids on the autism spectrum who are being left behind. And I really want to build a school with 4 kids per teacher. And it's going to be in this really low income neighborhood. And there's no education savings account. And so then I ask, what do you think families can afford to pay? And they'll say families can maybe afford to pay $1,000, $2,000 a year. And I have to say, that's not going to work. You're not even going to be able to make rent. You're not going to pay yourself. You're not going to pay any staff if that's your scale. So those are really hard. And we're very honest about that in the interviews, that you have to come up with a different way. And just raising grant money is not a strategy. And so either you have to move to a different neighborhood where you can attract some higher income people to support the financials and then offer scholarships, or you have to open this sometimes in a school with a state with an education savings account where the government will pay for it. But we're also, that's probably the saddest reason where we have to turn someone down, is we're just honest that the school is going to fail, and we don't want to put anyone in the position to fail if we don't think you can launch. Those are the three big reasons. What percentage of KaiPod partners are in states without an ESA or voucher? 60%. I just looked at this data. So 60% of our partners are not in ESA states. 40% are in ESA states. Bonnie, we have one school in Chesapeake and one in Norfolk. You're in Suffolk, 45 minutes away. Would that be a negative? I don't know why that would be a negative, but do I misunderstand your question? Oh, does that mean you live in Suffolk and you're 45 minutes away? I think that's what she means. Yes, Bonnie's nodding her head. Yeah, that's not a negative at all. I mean, if you're willing to do the drive, I don't care. No, I think a lot of times you have to do that because you want to locate the school where the families are, not where you are. And sometimes that means there's a commute. And if for a lot of people, they say, I don't want that, like I don't want a long commute. So then maybe you're not opening a school where with the original vision you had in mind. But no, there's no issue at all. If I don't ask you where you live or how far your drive is, that's irrelevant too, as far as I'm concerned. Alicia, will parents know us as a brand KaiPod and a network through branding, or is everyone operating under their own brand? There's strength in branding. This is a great question, one I debate with my team all the time. So you cannot say you're a KaiPod Learning site, but you can say you're a KaiPod Catalyst partner school. And so we're going to give you this logo that says KaiPod Catalyst or KaiPod Network. You can put it all over your website, all your flyers, but the brand itself is your brand. So Alicia, you can call it Alicia's Sunshine Academy, whatever you like. And then you can, underneath that, you can say a KaiPod Network School. So that way you get the best of leveraging the brand, but also being you front and center. That's just kind of a belief I have, that I don't want to be front and center. I want you to be front and center. And so a lot of our founders choose not to say KaiPod until they feel like they need it. That's fine with us too. But you choose what you feel is right for your school. But a bunch of them do put it on their website. Okay, great. Any other questions? We're just at the end of our hour, but I'm happy to stay until we have people on the call. And if you're hopping off, don't forget to apply by the 20th or hopefully sooner.
I had a question. I think
Yeah.
it just got missed.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I work in special education, and so like within the public education setting, our students are covered under IDEA. I'm just curious, like in terms of accountability, because it's likely the demographic I would move forward with working with. Like, how are we maintaining accountability for the type of teaching that we're providing for students, and if it's just like going through with like what's mandated by the state, like for those students that do need accommodations, how are we documenting that, and then how are we providing that?
Natasha, what state are you in?
I'm in Virginia, but I will be relocating to Oklahoma.
Okay. So Oklahoma, I'm less familiar with off the top of my head. But the first decision you have to make is, are you going to operate as a private school or as a learning supplemental learning center? If you go the latter route, the supplemental learning center, then families are going to be registering as homeschoolers with Oklahoma. And if they register as homeschoolers, then they are accountable for the services, the IEP, et cetera. There's no public system accountability if a family chooses to homeschool. Now, if you're opening a microschool that's designed to support kids with IEPs and neurodivergent kids, you have to think about services and accommodations, right? Those are kind of the two big buckets. Accommodations are easy. If you have a small microschool, you're just going to naturally be able to accommodate a lot of the needs of the kids. And so families are not going to have to like fight for it. You're just going to naturally do that. And the services, usually the families do it out of pocket. They do it themselves if they're going down that route. So Some microschools choose to actually build the services into their program. So we have a microschool in Cave Creek, Arizona, which is southeast Phoenix. They're building a school for students who have intense autism special needs. This school charges something like $30,000 a year. Arizona has an ESA program. And so that school provides the services on site. So families get all that support within the school. So that is an option if you want to build it that way. But ultimately, the option is yours. What do you want to deliver? What do you not want to deliver? And leave it to the family. But as a private provider, you do not have the same legal obligations to service an IEP. You can actually work with the family to figure all that out. Okay, a couple more questions. Is there a point of contact to speak with someone before committing so we can make sure? So Rachel, if you have questions before you apply, just email Catalyst at KaiPod. Carolyn, who's on my team, she usually just does calls if someone has specific questions. If you've gotten to the interview process and you've gotten an offer to join the cohort and you have questions, yes, I'll be happy to call you directly, or we can ask any of our team to talk to you if you have questions to really understand the KaiPod program to make sure it's a fit for you. We don't want to force anyone into this, so we want you to go into this fully aware of what it means. So depending on which stage you're in, different people will get in touch with you. Okay, Bonnie, you're going to apply. Fantastic. Kendra, wonderful. Natasha. Okay, great. Any other questions?